My mother-in-law insisted on giving us parenting books she had personally approved. "These will teach you what you need to know," she smirked. When I handed her a book on setting boundaries instead, her reaction was priceless. I'm 32 female, married to my husband Mark 35 male for 6 years. We live in Austin, Texas, and earlier this year, we had our first baby, our beautiful daughter, Ella. We'd been trying for a while, so finally becoming parents was exciting, scary, and honestly just overwhelming in all the normal ways. But I wasn't prepared for the real challenge. My mother-in-law, Patricia. Let me paint a quick picture. Patricia is the kind of woman who always thinks she knows best. Loud opinions, fake smiles, passive-aggressive comments that she wraps up in sweet little bows. She raised Mark mostly on her own after his dad bailed when he was young. Because of that, she's very used to being the authority figure. And I think she assumed that becoming a grandmother meant she was about to step right back into a position of control. The trouble started literally the week we got home from the hospital. She showed up with a casserole, some flowers, and a stack of books. I'm talking 6, maybe 7 books, tied with a freaking ribbon like she was giving us the holy grail of parenting knowledge. "These," she said, putting them proudly on the counter, "will teach you what you need to know." "No, would you like some reading material?" "No, I found these helpful. Maybe you will too. Just here's how you're going to raise your baby." Like the baby had come from her womb. I flipped through the titles after she left. One was printed in 1993. Another one basically promoted spanking. One claimed babies should be sleeping through the night by 6 weeks. You get the idea. I told Mark, and he just sighed. "That's Mom," he said. "She means well." And he's not wrong, technically. But means well doesn't make her less controlling or less exhausting. It didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, Patricia decided she was going to be our third roommate. She showed up constantly. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes she just showed up to check in. She'd pop into the nursery and rearrange things without asking. She once reorganized our pantry because babies need a clean, efficient kitchen. She'd hold Ella and make these little comments like, "Oh, your mommy doesn't know what she's doing, does she?" with a laugh like it was a joke. Except it wasn't. One time, she told me flat out I was coddling Ella because I didn't let her cry for 20 minutes before sleeping. When I mentioned we were trying a gentle sleep method, she rolled her eyes and said, "That modern crap doesn't work." You'll see. I tried to grin and bear it. I tried to be polite. But I could feel myself boiling. The baby blues didn't help either. I was exhausted, hormonal, and felt like a guest in my own house. And there was Patricia, waltzing in like she was the expert on everything, treating me like some clueless teenager playing house. The breaking point came one afternoon when I was trying to nap while Ella slept. Patricia had used her spare key. Yes, we gave her a key early on like idiots, to let herself in. She woke me up, no knocking, no text, because she wanted to show me a new book she'd ordered online. She actually stood at the foot of our bed while I was half asleep and said, "You're going to love this one. It explains why letting babies manipulate you is a real problem." I was stunned. I didn't even have words. I just nodded, took the book, and waited until she left. That night, I looked at Mark and said, "I'm done." We had a long talk. He admitted he'd been uncomfortable too, but didn't know how to push back on his mom. She's been single for a long time, gets lonely easily, and he felt guilty. But he agreed it was too much. So I made a plan. I went online and ordered a book called Set Boundaries, Find Peace. It's a real book, and it's honestly excellent. It talks about emotional manipulation, guilt tripping, and how to create healthy distance even with close family. I read it cover to cover in 2 days. I highlighted pages. I bookmarked chapters. Then, the next time Patricia came over right on cue, no warning, I met her at the door, handed her the book, and said, "This book has really helped me a lot lately. I thought you might like to read it." Her smile froze. She looked at the title like it was in another language. Then she looked at me. "Oh," she said, her voice way too sweet. "What's this about?" I smiled right back. It helped me learn how to handle people who don't respect boundaries. I think you'll find it useful. The look on her face. She tried to play it off. Oh, well, if you think I need it, and let out this fake laugh, but her eyes were sharp. She got the message. The next day, she texted Mark saying she was hurt and just trying to help. We didn't respond. Not rudely, we just didn't engage. We gave her space. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, she hasn't dropped by. She hasn't brought books. She hasn't reorganized our fridge. I don't think she's done with her power games yet, but for the first time, she knows I'm not going to roll over and smile while she stomps all over our lives. So, after the boundary book move, things went quiet. Too quiet. Patricia didn't show up for almost 2 weeks. No random visits. No books. No reorganizing our home. Mark and I finally felt like we had space to breathe. It was weird, honestly. But if there's one thing I've learned about Patricia, it's this. She doesn't give up. She just regroups. So last Sunday, Mark and I were finally getting into a routine. Ella was sleeping a little more at night. We were managing, and even had a friend over, Samantha, someone I've known since college. She was dropping off a baby swing her kid had outgrown. We were chatting in the living room. Ella was snoozing in her bassinet, and Mark was out running errands. And then came the knock. Not the doorbell. Not a text. A knock, sharp, 3 taps. I opened it, and there she was. Patricia, holding a casserole dish, with a tight smile on her face. Now I know how this sounds. She brought food. Big deal. But I felt it in my gut. That smile wasn't real. That casserole was not just a casserole. Something was off. Just wanted to drop this off, she said, handing me the dish like it was a bomb about to go off. I kept my tone flat. Thanks. We have company right now, so she looked past me into the house. Oh, I see. Company. Before I could say anything, she pushed right in. Didn't even wait. She walked into the living room and spotted Samantha. And this woman, this grown woman, looked Samantha up and down like she was a roach on the carpet. Oh, she said, I didn't realize you had strangers around the baby. I felt like my face was on fire. Samantha, bless her, gave a small wave and stood up. I was just dropping something off. Patricia cut her off. You don't know what kind of germs you're carrying. Babies are sensitive, you know. I wanted the ground to swallow me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the casserole dish at the wall. But I did say, very calmly, Patricia, you need to leave. Now. She blinked like she didn't hear me right. Then gave this weird, tight laugh. I'm just trying to keep my granddaughter safe, she said. No, I replied. You're making things worse. You don't come into our house uninvited. You don't insult our friends. You don't get to decide what's safe or not. Her face changed. Like, really changed. Gone was the smile. She set her jaw and stared at me, hard. You know what, she said. You've changed. You're turning Mark against me. Ah, there it was. The real issue. Patricia, we're the parents now. You're the grandparent. That means loving from a distance when asked to, not barging in like this. She left without saying another word. Not a hug, not a goodbye to Ella, nothing. That night, Mark got a call from his cousin, Dana. Apparently, Patricia had called a family meeting. No joke. She told everyone she was being pushed out of her own family, that I was emotionally unstable, and that Mark was too scared to speak up. And then she told them something that made me freeze. She said, Dana told us that she might call CPS, just to make sure the baby's safe. Yeah, I was shaking. Not even crying, just cold. You hear stories like that online, but when you're the one being threatened with a false CPS report, it's like falling into ice water. Mark lost it. He called his mom that night and laid it all out. If you even think about calling CPS, we're done. No visits, no calls, no updates. I'm serious. She cried. Of course she cried. Said we were being cruel and cutting her out of Ella's life. said she was just worried, but never once denied it. Not once. Now we're in this weird limbo. Mark blocked her number. I locked down our social media. Samantha, bless her again, offered to be a witness if anything happens. We even installed a security camera at the front door. We haven't seen her since. But something tells me this isn't over. Not by a long shot. After the CPS threat and Mark going full no contact, things seemed calm on the surface. But Patricia doesn't just disappear. She lurks. Mark and I were in defense mode. We changed the locks. We bought a ring cam. We told our neighbors to call us if they saw her car parked near our place. For a while, we lived in this anxious kind of fog, always waiting for her to pull some new stunt. It was like waiting for a tornado siren that never came. So, Mark has a younger sister, Trina. She and Patricia are tight. Not in a creepy way, but in a she's mom's favorite child way. Trina has always stayed out of conflict. She plays neutral, even when Patricia crosses the line. But then she came over one afternoon with a gift bag for Ella. Nothing fancy. Just some baby clothes and a little book. As she was leaving, she casually said, "I'm glad you're letting Mom back into Ella's life a little." She told me about the new photos. Mark and I both froze. "What photos?" I asked. "Oh, the ones she got from the daycare," Trina said, still not getting it. She was so happy to see how big Ella's getting, she said she might frame a few. Mark and I just stared at her. We had never given Patricia any daycare photos. We hadn't even posted those pictures anywhere. They came in a sealed envelope from the center. So, how the hell did she get them? We waited until Trina left. Then we pulled up our ring cam history and scrolled through the past week. And there it was. Last Tuesday around 2:35 p.m. Patricia had come to the house while we were both at work. She didn't try the front door. She didn't knock. She went straight to the mailbox. We watched her open it, pull out a few envelopes, flip through them. Then she held one up, smiled, and walked away. I felt sick. I remembered that week we'd gotten the daycare photos in the mail and assumed they were delayed. Never thought twice about it. She stole our mail. That's a federal offense, by the way. Just in case anyone thinks I'm being dramatic. But that wasn't even the worst part. We called the daycare. I pretended to ask about ordering more copies. Then, gently, I asked, "Have you had any contact with Ella's grandmother lately? Like, has she reached out?" The woman on the phone hesitated. Actually, she stopped by last week. Mark was standing beside me. I had her on speaker. She told us she was here to pick Ella up early, the daycare director said. She had your last name and said you asked her to help out. But when we checked her ID, we realized she wasn't on the pickup list. My knees went weak. They didn't call us. We meant to follow up, she added quickly. But she left without making a scene, and we made a note not to let her in again. I couldn't even speak. Patricia had tried to take our baby. Maybe not actually kidnap her, I don't know. Maybe she thought she could just waltz in and get grandma time. But she lied. She showed up like a snake, told them I had sent her. We filed a police report for the mail theft the next morning. Didn't matter if anything came of it. I just wanted a record. Mark finally said the words I'd been waiting to hear. She's dangerous. A friend of Mark's put us in touch with a family attorney. He told us we could draft a cease and desist letter immediately, and if things escalated, we could seek a restraining order, especially if Patricia tried to get custody. And here's where it really goes off the rails. The lawyer asked if Patricia had any reason to believe she could get custody. We said no, our home is safe, clean, Ella is loved and cared for. Then he asked a simple question. Have either of you signed anything from her lately? We said no. But something in Mark's face changed. He stood up, went into the office, and came back with a thin envelope. Something Patricia had mailed to us months ago. Mark had opened it, skimmed it, and tossed it in a drawer. Inside? A notarized temporary guardianship form. It wasn't legal, it had no signatures from us. But it looked real. It said something about grandmother granted access and temporary care in absence of parents. It was blank under the signature lines. She had tried to trick us into signing guardianship papers. My blood ran cold. This woman, this sweet little casserole-bringing woman, had a whole playbook. It started with parenting books, then pushing her way into our home, then threatening CPS, then stealing mail, then trying to pick up our child like it was an after-school errand. And now we had paperwork showing she had planned this for a while. We are pressing charges for mail theft. We filed a report with the daycare. The lawyer is preparing an official cease and desist and has flagged our address in the legal system for any surprise custody filings. And yes, Mark is fully on board. He told Patricia if she so much as drives past our house again, she'll see a squad car before she sees her granddaughter. But like I said, this isn't the end, because 2 days ago, we found out what she did next. And it's somehow worse. Should I keep going? Mark got an alert through the lawyer's system. Patricia had filed an emergency petition with the county court trying to claim grandparents' rights. She was claiming we were emotionally unstable, neglectful, and unfit to parent. That CPS had been contacted, which was a lie, they never showed up, and that she feared for her granddaughter's safety. She actually submitted screenshots of my old posts on parenting forums, stuff like me saying I was exhausted or that I'd cried in the shower postpartum. She twisted everything. She also attached a copy of that bogus guardianship paper. The date for the hearing? 3 days away. Our lawyer moved fast. Thank God we had all the documentation, the daycare's report, the ring footage, texts, even voice recordings from Mark's cousin confirming Patricia admitted trying to step in as the real parent. But the thing that saved us? Yeah, I made a big one. See, when Patricia first started overstepping, I didn't want to look like the bad daughter-in-law. I kept saying yes, kept letting her in, gave her a key, let her hold Ella while I rested, laughed off the comments, told myself she means well. I gave her space to believe she had power. And I never spoke up until it was almost too late. I told the court exactly that. The judge asked if Patricia had ever been asked to stop. And I told the truth. Not soon enough. But then I handed the judge a folder. Inside were all the pieces Patricia didn't know we kept. A copy of the mail theft footage. A letter from Ella's pediatrician saying our child was thriving. A statement from the daycare about her unapproved visit. And, most importantly, the notarized guardianship paper and signed. When the judge looked at it, he squinted. Did you try to get them to sign this? Patricia was there, sitting across from me, wearing a church lady cardigan and fake pearls, holding tissues like she was on some dramatic soap opera. She didn't answer. Ma'am, the judge said again, did you try to trick your son and daughter-in-law into giving you guardianship? Her face was red. But she still didn't answer. That silence said everything. The judge ended the hearing fast. The case was dismissed. But it didn't stop there. He granted a protective order, 1 full year of no contact unless we lifted ourselves. And because of the guardianship stunt and the mail theft, our lawyer got the DA involved. Patricia was formally charged with mail tampering and submitting false statements to the court. Misdemeanor. But still a charge. Her face when she got served? Mark described it as the mask finally melting off. She tried to call Mark later. Crying, screaming, said I had poisoned him, that we destroyed the family. We didn't answer. We didn't need to. Patricia went back to her church group, the one where she plays sweet God-fearing grandma. Told everyone we cut her out, that we were cruel. But turns out, someone from the group had seen the court records. The truth. One by one, people pulled away from her. She's alone now. No family, no social circle, just her pride and her casserole recipes. And Ella? She's thriving. Healthy. Happy. Safe. We changed our numbers. We moved to a different neighborhood. Not to run away, but to start fresh. New locks. New boundaries. New life. I still go to therapy. I still feel guilt sometimes. Not for protecting my family, but for waiting so long to stand up for us. If you take anything from this story, let it be this, because people like Patricia, they don't get better when you stay quiet. They get smarter. They learn your weak spots. They find cracks. And then one day, you wake up and realize they almost won. Not today. Not ever again.